Department of Veterans Affairs released a preliminary report by the Inspector General of wait times at a Phoenix VA hospital, and it includes the finding that patients waited an average of 115 days for a first appointment. In light of the report, Colorado Senator Mark Udall became the first Democrat to call for VA Secretary Eric Shinseka's resignation. That happening, being reported by The Hill, you see on your screen there. The article begins, calls for the resignation of Veterans Affairs Secretary Eric Shinseki reached a fever pitch on Wednesday after the release of an explosive watchdog report that found, quote, systemic problems at VA facilities around the country. Senate Democrats, who had stood unified behind Shinseki last week, began to abandon him in droves after the release of the report, with Senators Mark Udall, John Walsh, Kay Hagan, and Richard Blumenthal all calling for his ouster. The Inspector General's report confirms the worst of the allegations against the VA and its failure to deliver timely care to veterans. It's time for President Obama to remove Secretary Shinseki from office, said John Walsh from Montana, the Senate's lone Iraq war veteran, and he issued that in a statement. Two Republicans with strong ties to the military, Senator John McCain and Representative Buck McKeon, said it was time for new leadership at the VA. That and more being reported in The Hill. Again, tonight, the House Veterans Affairs Committee is holding a hearing on this matter.
Open, transparent, collaborative, and work closely with you.
Have you ever heard from anyone on this panel that they felt it might have been strained?
Yes, sir. I've heard that. Yes, I know that this was run out of the Office of General Counsel, so I would defer to them. I was not part of that process, and I don't think anyone on the panel can speak.
Because I think many of us on this committee have proven ourselves of what we want to do and the trustworthiness, whatever. But I'm with Dr. Rowe. I can't help but feel something's not been given to me, and that may be totally false, but the impression was there. I would have just loved to see you, Dr. Lynch, jump up and say, over my dead body, will you not get that report? Can you say?
I have no doubt that this committee will get that report. I just do not have responsibility for it. But I have no doubt that...
So now the person who is responsible is not here, so we may have to bring them in and ask them to give it to us.
On the audit...
What is the job of the congressional liaison? What is the job of who do we talk to? Are you there for us to talk to ask these questions, or should we just skip over you and go directly to General Counsel?
No, yes, Congressman. In a subpoena, that is a legal matter. We work with the members of this committee and their staffs.
We try to do it without a subpoena. We try to do it without a subpoena.
Every day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waltz. Dr. Winstrup, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
I think to say when it comes to the Office of General Counsel, if you're turning everything over and you have nothing you're concerned about that we should find out about, you should be very upset that they have not turned this information over to us. You should be screaming and yelling that they have not turned that over to us instead of reciting time and time again. I defer to them. You should fire them. You should stand up for yourself and say, I've turned everything over, and here it is so that you can evaluate it. Do you have any comments on that on a personal note? Don't you feel that you're being let down? Because people are asking you here tonight, where is this information? You say you've turned it over, and they're saying, hold it. Doesn't that bother you? Because they're not helping your name tonight.
I've turned over the information. I haven't turned over the information. They've gone and pulled my email files.
Doesn't that bother you that they haven't submitted it to us?
Sir, I haven't reviewed the email files.
So it doesn't bother you?
Apparently. We are committed at VA to being collaborative and responsive.
Our veterans in a time in their life responded to the nation's needs immediately. They dropped everything and did it immediately. I would hope you'd do the same. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Per committee rules, we will continue with membership, and then we'll go to Ms. Jackson Lee. So, Mr. Cook, Colonel, United States Marine Corps, retired. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think, what if General Bradley were here now, the last five-star general we had? It's kind of ironic. Next week, Normandy invasion, 6th of June. I just don't feel that there's a chain of command or a sense of urgency. You know, I'm not going to go over all the things that have been covered and everything like that, but my feeling is, who's going to go down there and correct these things? And, you know, I know you had a busy weekend, but if people are dying there, you got to work through the weekend. It's a 24-hour day. It's a 7-day work. You know, there's got to be a sense of urgency. And I'm coming away from this hearing that the lawyers run everything. There has to be certain decisions made right away to change some of these policies, whether certain people have to be fired, whether they don't get bonuses. There's a lot of great people out there, I'm sure, that work for the VA, but most of them are military, and they're probably frustrated. And what I'm getting up to is, I think right now, you know, we're going to talk about this, and this committee will make a report and everything like that. But I was going to ask you, you know, the chain of command, who's going to do this, this, and this. I just come away from this hearing tonight, and I get the feeling that no one is in the VA right now is in a position to do anything. There is no trust and confidence to the people that I talked about. They want action, and they want it now. And if certain people, like if I did something wrong and people died, I would be fired and probably court-martialed. And that's the nature of the business. We owe that to the veterans, to the military, and we owe that to all the people that are working so hard in the VA administration. We have to straighten out this problem right now. We can have subpoenas and everything else, and I haven't heard that. I'd like to see the president go down to the VA hospitals and meet with the veterans. I'd like to meet, you know, if we were possible, to go down there right now and talk to them. You know, investigate, take statements of everybody. We've all done it before, Sergeant Major. And so I'm just very, very frustrated that, you know, that I'm in a position to make a difference, and I can't do anything. You know, I can't get across to you or the whole, and it's a feeling of frustration. If I was smarter than most people here, I'd say, okay, you got to do this, 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 and this. But right now, I think you need the discipline to go down there. Certain people have got to be relieved. They've got to be fired. These policies have got to be changed almost overnight. And we can't accept excuses or the fact that the lawyers are handling it anymore. Sorry, I should have asked questions, but that's been something that's been bugging me, and I apologize. Thank you. I yield back. I have 1 second.
Colonel, thank you for your service to this country. We are honored to have you as part of our committee. For the record, there are close to 700 attorneys at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Ms. Walorski, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lynch, I sit here and I don't think there's a word in the English language that can describe how frustrated I am. And I don't even think frustrated is an understatement. I've sat here for 18 months and listened to the same kind of answers we've heard tonight. And we've sat here for 2 hours and 15 minutes. We've had 20-some people question the three of you. And I know now, 2.5 hours later, what you don't know. You actually traveled to Arizona, and you didn't meet with anybody who had anything to do with this directly. You took your wife. It was the Easter weekend. We understand that plan. You didn't meet with anybody that was directly involved from all the testimony in these 20 people right here. If I was in your shoes, I would describe this as a 5-alarm fire, and you're rushing to the scene, and you're bringing mutual aid because the house is on fire, and nobody's going to survive. And I sit here and listen to the three of you, and I'm thinking to myself, the question I leave here tonight with, and probably my colleagues, what do you know? What we know is that people died. So I guess the question I want to ask would be on behalf of the families that probably aren't in this room tonight, but we've heard from some of them. I heard from Barry Coates here. 3 weeks ago that has a death sentence and a death warrant for something that was no fault of his own because he couldn't get a simple colonoscopy. People died. We sit here and we're asking all the same questions. But if you have an opportunity, I'm going to give you an opportunity because you're all three sitting here. This is carried live. What do you want to say, Mr. Lynch, to the families of these people that lost veterans? What do you want to say on behalf of the VA? Here's your opportunity.
Congresswoman, on behalf of myself, first of all, I take personally any time that a veteran has been harmed because of something the VA has done wrong.
Dr. Lynch, does the buck stop with you on these deaths? Do you accept the buck of the responsibility for what's happened? Are you responsible?
Congresswoman,
Yes or no? Are you responsible? Does the buck stop with you, Dr. Lynch?
I don't know whether it does, but I consider myself responsible, Congresswoman.
Ms. Mooney, does the buck stop with you? Do you feel responsible? Can you look in the eyes of these families and say, I accept this responsibility?
Congresswoman, I am the daughter of an atomic veteran.
Yes or no? Are you
Yes.
responsible?
I am responsible for ensuring that our focus at this point, and I'm sorry, Mr. Cook, that we didn't make this perfectly clear to you. Our focus remains on caring for our veterans. We want to make absolutely
Ms.
sure.
Mooney, this is my time that I have, a limited time. I've sat here for 18 months as a freshman. I've gotten very few answers to any question I've ever posed to you or anybody else. I'm still waiting on questions about a South Bend CBOC in South Bend, Indiana to serve my veterans.
Congresswoman,
Mr. Huff, do you share this responsibility? Does the buck stop with you?
Congresswoman, I am
Yes or no?
I am a
Does the buck stop with
staff-level
anybody in
congressional
this VA?
relations officer who is a civil servant and also a veteran. I'm not a supervisor. I'm a staff-level federal employee, and I do the best job I
Mr.
can.
Huff, does the responsibility lie with Secretary Shinseki? Do you still believe in his leadership ability to stand up to a 5-alarm fire? Where in the world is the urgency? I can sense the urgency of this committee, Democrats and Republicans, because our nation has totally lost its trust. It's our responsibility to sit here and continue to maintain oversight. And we can't find out where the buck stops. I've asked for Secretary Shinseki's resignation when the American Legion report came out. You've heard several different people asking the question, does the buck stop with you? Do you accept this responsibility? Are you ready to accept this responsibility and look in the eyes of the American people and our veterans and say what? What do you say tonight? I know what you don't know. What do you know that you can tell the American people that they can learn in 2.5 hours of a committee meeting?
Congresswoman, our focus remains on caring for these veterans. We join you in this. May I finish?
No, because I have 5 minutes. An IG report that has fact, and you all seem to have turned the facts to a general counsel, and we know less tonight. I have more questions tonight than I've had when I walked in here, because we learned what you don't know. But my question is, and it's going to have to go unanswered, what do you know?
We know that the facts of that report are utterly reprehensible. That is what we know. And we owe a debt to all our veterans who served. Every one of them.
So are you responsible?
I'll
you accept
take
that responsibility?
Absolutely.
What are you going to do with that responsibility? Are you going to stay in your position? Are you going to apologize?
I am going to.
Are you going to resign?
Congresswoman, I'm going to stay in my position and fight for veterans and fight for this Congress that I love.
I'm going to read you from the April 9th hearing here in this room, and basically I ask you, does the VA have every legal authority it needs to pay for a veteran's care whose care is delayed to receive care outside of the VA system? Your response: to my knowledge, sir, yes. I followed up. So, would it be correct to say that failure to deliver care in a timely fashion is simply a question of poor leadership at VA? Your response: I think that would be a stretch, sir. I think that our system strives to treat patients within VHA because we think we do provide good care. We think we provide quality care. Could you please expand on that now that you've had several weeks to reflect?
Congressman, I still think we have a good system. And I think we have evidence that we deliver good care. We are obviously in very difficult times right now. We have identified that we have significant failures to provide timely care. We need to address that. I think we have a way forward. I think we have the tools to do that. I think it's going to require the collaborative relationship with Congress and with your committee. And I think, sir, I've demonstrated in the past I'm willing to work with your committee to try to identify problems and to look to solutions.
Thank you very much for your response. I would also ask, do you think, though, that this has been a failure of leadership, or what has it been?
I think that there is the potential that we have lost true north. I think we need to focus on our mission, treating veterans, providing health care. I think we need to focus our performance measures on giving us the tools that we need to provide timely care, Mr. Congressman.
Thank you very much. And the letter we received from Mr. Gunn, dated May 27th, basically says that these were the remainder of the documents identified in our search of the 27 custodians. In other words, the General Counsel believes that they have complied with the subpoena. Ms. Mooney, would you deliver a message back to the General Counsel that the committee says that the VA has not complied with the subpoena? Would you do that for us?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Mooney, on September 13th of 2013, the committee requested the current status of all VA healthcare facilities that have an appointment wait time backlog. To date, we've received incomplete information on only 2 of hundreds of VA medical facilities. Now, despite this request being over 8 months late, when can we expect to receive a response?
Congressman, we will work to get you that request as expeditiously as possible.
8 more months?
No, sir. We look to having the results of the audit and getting the response as quickly as possible.
But this, okay.
I don't know the circumstances of this particular request, but we will work to get that, and we'll take that back
For the committee's,
and make it the committee's top priority, if that's what you indicate.
The committee sends a letter every week to the Secretary with every single outstanding request.